Here, RAF, the beginning. But first, we need to fully comprehend what a bus is as a business entity. The first name and the entire historical background of buses from the Baltics starts in 1949. At the renowned Riga auto repair plant, they meticulously organized the Riga bus body factory, Rzak. But nothing was done there. In essence, essentially in 1951, there was an amalgamation with the Riga experimental automobile factory. A couple more years went by and he appeared. No, not RAF. Well, that was the tradition in the USSR to make the same buses everywhere, but with a little twist. I don't know why, but a year later, they decided to reshape everything again. And the company was renamed to the Riga Experimental Bus Factory. And then there was more. And so, on September 30th, 1954, and that means a quick anniversary, RAF became Rafik. Riga, Bus Factory. The Baltic republics have always followed a slightly different, somewhat European path within the framework of the USSR, but still coordinated with the center. And this time, they decided to surprise everyone with their development. To be honest, the GZA 651 was, already outdated back then. So, we have reached Rafik in our story. You're not to blame for anything. 951 year. The gates of the factory Pokinul, approximately the first 251. It was strikingly different, both technically and visually, from other buses produced in our country. The truth is, in fact, our country barely saw them at all, because they were mainly used in their homeland. Speaking of the appearance, we have to give credit to the designers. They tried to give the vehicle an interesting exterior. There are no sharp edges or angles. Everything is rounded. Let's say it's for better aerodynamics. Even though the windshield is made up of 4 parts, it is essentially panoramic. But the rear also features curved glass. Their production back then was quite complicated. And there are route indicators on the roof as well. The bus frame was assembled from wood, following an old, very old tradition. If it's large, then that's great. More often than not, it was what it was. And then the frame was covered with scarce steel sheets. The design was unstable to weather and maritime climate, rotting quickly. This wasn't problematic. Simple manufacturing allowed easy repairs and replacements, but that wasn't a problem. The simplicity of manufacturing allowed for major repairs and complete body replacements. Very quickly. Wooden bodies rarely lasted more than 10 years without a complete replacement. The main thing is that the chassis on which the buses were built was practically indestructible. The GAZ 51 is the foundation of many small domestic buses. I won't even list all the companies. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. There were about 300 bus assembly plants that used the GAZ base. But here too, the Latvians chose their own path. Which one? They extended the frame quite significantly. If the length of the 51 is 5750 mm, then the RAV is 6696 m. At the same time, the wheelbase, of course, remains the same, at 3300 mm. To avoid making serious changes to the design, the frame was extended by welding, at the front and the back, which makes a lot of sense in this context. Plus, 1 meter to the bus, which adds to the capacity. And also, the bus is cableless. It was still a few years for the Pavlovsky miracle. The PAZ 652 came along. The Latvians were practically among the first, but only for small buses with 20+ seating places. Chassis, frame and suspension, front axle weight. The front axle's weight increase required reinforcing the front suspension with extra spring leaves. Shock absorbers are used. Rear axle unchanged. The shock absorbers are of the lever type. The rear axle hasn't changed. They're spring-based. The only thing is shock absorbers were added. The vehicle was designed for rural areas and poor roads. Ideally, The first RAV buses were equipped with trendy, modern, and incredibly high-tech, state-of-the-art two-leaf automatic doors. But we have a later model, simplified for service use, with the Index 251F and manual drive. 2 doors, is that right? No, that's for the cabin. Initially, the number of people in the bus was 22, but with the removal of 1 door, it increased to 25. Moreover, the Zemgals treated their fellow tribesmen with respect and arranged the seats near the windows, a bit further apart from each other than necessary. Well, yeah, sitting on them.
Ну да, сидеть на них.
It's pretty comfortable. You can't say the same about the back row. Well, in the center, the space is actually good. But on the sides, it's a bit cramped. Overall, it's pretty cool. And there's no one to blame here. Because it's a simplified design. An attempt to fit an unfit number of passengers. The interior of the bus is finished, neatly, but very simply. The floor in the bus is made of 15mm thick plywood and is covered with linoleum. Actually, the plywood isn't ordinary, it's bicolized. The layers of plywood made from pressed pine and birch veneer are coated with a bicolite varnish based on formaldehyde. The ceiling was also covered with plywood, but thin. It was covered with calico and painted with white nitro paint. Interior lighting. Once there were 10 light fixtures on the ceiling, made from the headlights of a Zim car. One, however, has been preserved with the driver. And in general, there are also many elements, from the Gas 12 Zim still preserved outside. In warm weather, you can open the windows. There are also 2 hatches. And this is the couch, where the bride and groom are supposed to sit, with the witnesses on the sides. Why is there such a huge couch here? Well, did someone figure it out, or did it come to someone later? I'll explain. The driver's door is separate. The driver's seat is white. Hospital. Operating. In life, there are no small or insignificant steps to take. However, I am fortunate to have long legs that help me stride forward with ease. When it comes to describing the concept of the dashboard is made of pieces of bent metal, painted white. The gas dashboard looks like a black blot on it. There is, of course, a cabin heater and a lava glass blower. But the rectangular refrigerator lying on its side, uncovered and unadorned, is surprising. Honestly, I don't understand why it's beautiful on the outside, but here it's just plain. Did the Latvians' imagination run out? The gear shift lever. Yeah, it's just some nonsense. And sitting behind the wheel is not just uncomfortable, it's anatomically impossible. I explained it on the go. By the way, here's the fog light, winter. But you know what was really awesome here? Rafiki, or initially, and for a long time equipped. The radio receiver from a Moskvich was playing music in the cabin, creating a cheerful vibe. Damn, I forgot to tell you about the engine. Let's get started. This is the gear lever. To all the wings. Gaze on, 70 HP, 201 Nimia. The maximum power is 70 horsepower at 2800 RPM. The maximum torque is 201 Newton meters at 1500 RPM. And yes, it's a 6-cylinder engine, and the head is made of aluminum. All right. About the controls. They had to be completely redesigned. For example, they cut the gas on steering column and installed it almost vertically. And to press the pedals, you need to have a natural ability. Well, it's like some kind of leg distortion, I don't know. Well, here I'm pressing the clutch, and I'm pressing the brake pedal, and it turns out that my legs are always in a suspended state. And to press the accelerator pedal, your foot probably needs to be about a size 37 in length. And ideally, it should be a very narrow little foot, because I need to place it, and then ceremoniously press the gas. Well, I'll manage, all right?
Key to start, key to start.
I want to say that against the backdrop of its older siblings in the bus family, the RAV 251 was very fast thanks to the Gorky chassis. It could accelerate up to 70 km/h at most. But this engine didn't like quick starts and felt better at 50, at most 60 km/h. In short, the engine doesn't like high RPMs.
Yeah, and I don't like them. Beep, beep.
Yeah, shifting gears. To pound butter in a mortar. I'm talking about shifting and also double clutching. It's fine. No matter what I scream here, at least call for help to someone. No one in the cabin will hear me, because the engine is roaring loudly and the wall behind me is solid and unyielding. And the question is, who should sit on the right? A grandma, a driver, or a mistress of the hippo? For such a bus, a fuel consumption of 30-40 liters of 80-octane gasoline was considered normal back then. The Rafiks operated in the small towns of the Baltics and on intercity routes. But in the following years, when the Pazik appeared, 251 model was relegated to the category of service buses and switched to work at enterprises. Yeah, the rear cargo axle is clearly not meant for a bus. Clearly it's meant to pull something heavy. The maximum speed isn't high, and it really rocks you back and forth. I can imagine driving this Rafik on country roads, but on the other hand, it's better to drive poorly than to walk well. It's noisy and a bit heavy. I was talking about the pedals, and also the steering wheel isn't in the middle, it's off to the side. And move it here. But there's some charm to it, something... The visibility, for example, is amazing. It handles pretty well on the move. And in all this scrubbed, harsh simplicity, the delight is awakening. But I wouldn't want to work in a Rafik. It's spoiled. Officially, the production of the RAV 251 ended in 1960. RAV was transitioning to the production of the legendary and familiar RAV buses. But in reality, back in 1958, the assembly of buses was moved to RARS, the Riga, Auto Repair Plant number 1. There, the model was renamed to RAV 976. And so, in the 60s, even after officially ending production, they were constantly repairing old buses. As a rule, they completely changed the bodies, up until the early 90s. There's no accuracy here? Sorry. Back in 1967, they attempted the RAV 976M bus on a Gazon chassis at RARS. With a new all-metal body and avant-garde design, it remained limited production, unlike its wooden predecessor. But it remained a limited production item, unlike its wooden predecessor. And why bother, when they were already preparing to produce the legendary 977 at RAV?
Once again, the bus fleet number 6 and the passenger transport heart, it makes me happy. It's not rain in St. Petersburg from the sky. As always, in winter, it's not really dripping. Golden domes. I've got tattoos on my chest. Oh, it's not because of that, sorry. The hunt continues.